Hello, hello, my dear friends. Welcome to Realization Hub. My name is Michelle, and I appreciate you joining me to have a conversation about the new moon in Pisces happening on February 27th at 2:44 p.m. Hawaii time. I want to start with a little conversation about Pisces and generally about just where we're at right now in this collective experience and what the season might be about for us. But right now, what I'm feeling into for those of you watching is that you're all very bright. You all have shown up to have your own spiritual journeys in your own unique way. Many of you are tuned in, is basically what I'm trying to say. You're tuned in, you're tapped in, you're connected in some way for yourself. And even many of you are tuned in to what's happening in the collective, at least having or holding a perspective that is important for you. But I want to share that what I'm sensing about all of you as a bright light in this world is that there's a confusion. There's a confusion or possibly a disorientation or something that just feels disconnected in some way in your own life experience. I feel a lot of you asking that question like, I followed my truth or embodied my truth or I took the next step. I aligned with my soul. I did the work, and why isn't it all coming together? Why isn't it working? Why is the world getting worse, or more dark, or like, why is there more friction? Why does it feel like we're going backwards? Why have I followed these synchronicities or these signs and it's not really connecting in my life? You guys are showing me like this vast ocean, that's very still and peaceful. And like, you've got all these little bright lights, almost like lightning bugs or little starlights just drifting and floating on top of that ocean. And I can see like in your spiritual world, in your spiritual realm, like you've brought a lot of connection to a lot of different points in your life, a lot of different areas of your life, but somehow they all still feel very disconnected. Like they're not, like the dots aren't connecting. Like something isn't connecting in your life in some way. Like there's a lot of connection and then disconnection at the same time that I'm sensing with what you've done and what's happening here on Earth and what you're doing here on Earth. I think that is a profound experience that a lot of people are having right now that have done what we've done, as far as allowed ourselves to really go through some deep changes within ourselves. This new moon brings up a conversation with our soul and our human self, in that it addresses that there's something bigger than us. We have our human experience where we can feel very focused in that, and where we can almost become obsessive about the details, and we can overthink, and we can try to put so much pressure on our minds to understand everything and to figure out everything, like the problems in the world, the problems in our lives, the problems in our families' lives and our friends' lives, the problems in our partners' lives, the problems with our pets. We have to put so much responsibility and burden on our minds to figure it all out, to figure out the solution, how it's all going to work out. I think a lot of people who are sensitive to energy especially have been really overwhelmed, over the last few weeks or month, of feeling the collective surge of fear and anxiety and power and control games. And like I mentioned, just this sense of going backwards into ancient, old, archaic, abusive, old energy dynamics that we have so outgrown, on some level. We have so outgrown that. And I think this new moon is like an entrance point. It's like a big archway that has us enter into the eclipse season, and the nodes of fate, they are in Pisces and Virgo. And so that full moon coming up, there's a lunar eclipse coming up in March. I'm gonna find the details right now as I'm talking. In March, we have a total lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 13th. And then following that, the end of March, on the 29th of March, we'll have a solar eclipse, a partial solar eclipse in Aries. The North Node will be in Pisces, but the actual new moon will be in Aries. This Pisces season is inviting us to align with this archetype of Pisces. And some of the themes that I think that are rising up for us to confront is, can you trust that there are things happening outside of our comprehension that are working for us and serving us? Can you trust that perhaps you're feeling a bit disconnected right now so that you can drift like a seed in the air, like a pollen seed in the air towards where you need to be? Can you allow yourself to have a non-linear experience, an experience that might even be nonsensical, not really make sense to you, something that your mind can't really figure out? Can you allow something bigger than you to handle some of these issues in your own life or in the world? Can you trust the process? Can you trust a flow of experience? In this case, what I feel is that there's a purpose in which we're all feeling a bit like we're waiting or drifting or just observing something in the world. That we're all like these little pollens of light. We're all these like little seeds of light that are floating in the air. And this eclipse season is the breeze that helps us drift and take us to where we need to land, where we need to focus, where we need to realign. And this new moon is an entrance point into that realignment. And one of the things I'm really feeling about this new moon is that, it is in a square with Jupiter. And Jupiter is now moving direct in Gemini. And Jupiter is all about our growth and expansion, our opportunities. And it's currently in Gemini, and so you can think of Jupiter being very broad, very experiential, learning through our experiences. But in Gemini, it can get a little bit congested in our minds. Maybe we've been having a lot of experiences that are asking us to grow, asking us to embrace new opportunity, asking us to expand in some way. And yet again, where we get congested or spiritually or energetically constipated is in our minds, where we're trying to figure it out too much, where we're trying to look at the details too much and figure it out, when really this new moon is asking us to let go. Be like that pollen of light that's floating in the air, to allow yourself, first of all, to trust, and just to go with that flow. To let your mind have that challenge of disengaging or unattaching from all the details, trying to figure it all out, and hyper micromanagement of our spiritual journey, or of our, what needs to be balanced or healed in our lives, or what needs to grow in our lives, or what needs to be embodied in our lives. Like, can we trust that process? Can we let go and unattach mentally? And can we be patient too? Because we also have Saturn in Pisces, conjuncting Mercury at this time. With Saturn in the mix, there's a delay. There's a delayed gratification, delayed results, things that happen over long periods of time. Things that are built over long periods of time. Can we have so much trust that even if things are delayed, and even if things are restricted, and even if things take time to work themselves out, can we still trust that there's something much larger at work here that allows us to, take the pressure off, to get it all figured out, and just let go a little bit and embrace that archetype of Pisces of drifting and flowing and going in and out of a non-linear experience for the sake of our soul's experience, for the sake of what we as beings of light are here to experience on a personal level as well as collectively together. So the moon, this new moon in Pisces, it's going to be at 9 degrees, and it's going to be in a square to Jupiter, and it's also going to be in a trine with Mars. Mars will finally be going direct in Cancer. Mars is going to be at the 17th degree of Cancer. So we're going to have some time here. We're going to have some time to really take in how we want to direct and channel our physical energy in our lives. And we will be what it feels like to me, a standstill, almost like a spiritual standstill. Like I mentioned before, that imagery of like a quiet ocean with like little lights just floating on top of the ocean, almost like lightning bugs or little starlights just kind of floating there in a standstill. This is a moment in time where we're bringing some stillness in. We're bringing some quietness in. We're bringing it's like that hangman energy, from the tarot. It's a little bit like there's a need to just detach a little bit, disconnect a little bit, and just float for a moment, And that is, in my opinion, the trine with Mars in Cancer, just temporarily. Whenever a planet, turns direct, it doesn't just immediately zoom forward again. It stations, and that stationing period, depending on the planet, is a very potent energy. And then it slowly, starts to turn direct and move forward, and it has to go through its, go back over its steps again, that shadow period again, before it really moves us forward past this experience we've all been working through. And the new moon is also going to be trining Vesta and Scorpio, and Vesta is kind of like our inner sacred spiritual flame that that can guide us towards union and healing. And this can be very healing for our feminine energy. Having the new moon in Pisces, trining the Mars in Cancer and trining Vesta in Scorpio, I definitely think this could be a nice, beautiful, feminine healing. There's a grand trine, there with Mars and Vesta and the new moon. I think this could be healing for our feminine energy. I mean, how burdensome is it to put so much pressure on our minds to figure out all of the world's problems and all of our personal problems and all of the people we care about and their problems? At some point, you do have to have a reckoning that that is a limitation. It's a limitation to have to depend solely on your mind to figure out all of those details. And so I think this new moon is helping us to energetically prepare for a big release, that comes to that lunar eclipse in Virgo, where we are going to be letting go of those things within us, those behaviors within us, those habits and those even practices or ways of thinking that are just too micromanagey, of our experience, too controlling, too perfectionistic, too focused on the details, where there's just an excessive amount of mental energy, and giving it more to our feminine energy, to receive what we need, to allow ourselves to synchronistically drift to exactly where we need to be to align, with our souls. The other thing I want to mention about this new moon is that Pisces is ruled by Jupiter traditionally, and Jupiter will be squaring this new moon, but it'll also be in sextile to Venus. And so I do think that we will have some opportunities regarding money and relationships and our connections that help serve us, in how we need to grow and what we might need to cut back on, or how we might need to, trust the experience that we're having, that we have the opportunity to help each other, lean on each other, go into new territory with each other, be very interdependent with one another, help each other out as we navigate some new territory in our life. Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. And Neptune is going to be in a conjunction with the North Node. It passed the North Node. It's at 28 degrees now at this new moon. And the North Node will be at 27 degrees. But Neptune's going to be in conjunction with that North Node, and it will be opposing the South Node. And the South Node is in Virgo, and it'll also be in conjunction with Lilith, and it'll also be in a trine with Juno. So my sense here is that, for especially those of you that connect with me, you have your own spiritual journey ahead, your own soul's mission or purpose that you want to live out here, some kind of experience you want to have. And there's still this journey of making it happen, of making it real, of manifesting it. And so you not only have to tap into your spiritual gifts, but you also have to embody it, and you have to build it, and you have to approach it in practical ways as well. So I think a lot is going to be on our minds at this time about how to make things happen for real in our lives, how to build something, how to grow something, how to embody something, how to embody our gifts and talents, our creative talents, our spiritual gifts, how to bring that to the world, how to bring that to our world, how to build something, our dreams based on that. But there could be, a lot on our minds, a continued experience of being sobered by our circumstances, a continued experience of having those reality checks, and then the challenge of surrendering and allowing and trusting the process and allowing yourself to disconnect temporarily, to drift temporarily, to soften, and allow yourself to be receptive to the current of your own divine self, that's asking you to possibly drift back into alignment where things maybe got out of alignment. Because we have so much going on in Pisces at this time in the new moon, we'll have Ceres in Pisces, Saturn, Mercury, the North Node, and we'll have Neptune. That's a lot of energy in Pisces. And I see that, Saturn will be trining Mars and Vesta. There's kind of this grand trine energy going on in this new moon. With Mars, with Vesta, with Mercury and Saturn and the moon, these wide and tighter grand trines. That's just showing us where things are really flowing. And I just think on a spiritual level, on a creative level, on an emotional level, things will be flowing and more harmonious. And what's going to be a little bit more challenging is our, how we grow mentally, with Mercury in a conjunction with Saturn, we still might have some things weighing on us. Saturn can be depressing, it can be sobering, it can be cold and dry and restrictive. And, oftentimes when we pass through a conjunction with Saturn, it can feel a little bit like we're getting a reality check, or we're experiencing more critical thoughts, or we're just, it's kind of like having a lecture sometimes from a parent, that's telling us some of the hard truths of getting our acts together, and so we may have that lingering on a mental level where we're really trying to figure out, our next move, and we're really trying to make it work, and we really understand some challenges that we have to grow up and mature and show up for, and, be more responsible and disciplined around, while at the same time having to embrace the complete opposite, which is surrendering and allowing and trusting the process. And it's a lot of energies to embody at once. It's kind of like yes and, that kind of energy. Yes and, like, yes, you need to be aware of the reality. Yes, you need to be sober about what's happening. Yes, you need to be aware of these problems that are happening in your life and outside in the world. Yes, you need to be real about what it takes to do what you're here to do. And you also need to let go, and you also need to trust the process, and you also need to recognize that there's bigger, things outside of your control, your own divinity, your own soul, your own higher power, that is also at play, and to trust that as well. To be willing to understand, what's happening in your life, but not get too entrenched or absorbed in the details and micromanaging your life from a mental state. To be willing to allow your mind to open and tap into a higher mind. Mercury will be in a sextile to Uranus during this new moon, and I think there's an opportunity to open to the higher mind, to see what's happening on a bigger level that's helping things to come together for us, that's helping us perhaps on an individual level, that's helping us connect the dots. I just think there's a lot of dots in our lives where we've followed the signs, where we've embodied our truth, where we've taken these steps, where we've gone through some growth, where we've allowed some evolution, and it feels disconnected right now for a lot of us. Like, what's the purpose of all of it? Like, where's the connection? I can't connect any of the dots in my life yet, and that's kind of the feeling I get for a lot of you. And yeah, this desire to kind of connect the dots, for things to come together, to kind of make sense of the disconnection. And I guess this new moon is allowing us to break away from making sense of things right now, and to mostly recognize your very conscious light seed that's floating in the air, and you need to allow yourself to drift, to see where your soul takes you, to allow some bigger things, your higher power, what you would consider bigger than you, to come into the mix, to guide you, to lead you to where you need to be, and embrace more of that Pisces archetype. The North Node being in Pisces, that's where we're pumping up the energy in our lives. We need more of that. We need more of that right now. More trust, more allowing a non-linear experience to occur, having faith, believing in each other, believing in our dreams, and doing the work to embody our dreams at the same time, being real about that. I guess that's the different tone in Pisces season when we have Saturn transiting through Pisces, is that we're no longer truly able to escape and spiritually bypass like we used to in these Pisces seasons. We really have to consider how we're really going to embody what we're here to embody for real, and be willing to put in the work to do that. If any of you would like to join me, I'm offering a new group session as long as needed, but these group sessions are particularly for people who experience a lot of energetic changes. You're going through constant growth periods, you're going through constant shifts in consciousness, or energy detoxes, and you're feeling mentally, emotionally, or spiritually destabilized because the changes that you're going through internally are fast, or perhaps the external world and what's happening on Earth right now. We're starting to have global shifts, global growth periods. We've been having global shifts, we've been having global growth periods, but they're becoming more consistent. They're becoming we're not getting breaks from them anymore. They're becoming a consistent way of living because we're going through constant change and exponential change on the planet. And so, from here on out, we're going to be in constant global growth periods, constant global change, constant global expansion, constant global shifts and disruptions. And the sessions that I'm offering are group sessions where you can show up and you can join me, and I'll lead you through managing your own energy and even tuning into what's happening globally, and to help you connect with yourself and your next step, whether that's through some type of clarity, intuitive insight, or wisdom that comes through. Each of these sessions will be held in the present moment, and so whatever's coming up in the present moment in those sessions will address. So they'll all be unique in some way. I'll be offering them at a certain time each month. I just want to let you know that I live in Hawaii, so likely if you're not from Hawaii, our time zones are completely different. And I just want you to know that these sessions are recorded. So if you want to join us, you can still join us. Just sign up and you'll get the recording. And just know that the energy is just as potent in a recording than it is if you show up live. We all meet together in spirit despite what timeline we're on. And so I invite you to join me in those sessions if you need support, surfing these waves of expansion on Earth and feeling more balanced, or just feeling more empowered through that, needing some tools to help you with that, or just need to sharpen your own spiritual tools. I do recommend anyone that joins those sessions that you take my introduction programs. I would recommend that. It's not required. But if you do take those beginner courses or those introduction courses, the Radiant Self course or the Real Eyes program, those are courses that are going to teach you all the tools that I'm working with in those sessions. But nonetheless, you can show up anyways, because you can follow along. That's how simple and easy these tools are. And even if you don't quite understand the depth of those tools, you can still start working with them immediately. And if you find that you want to learn more, you can always join in on those classes when I offer them. But yeah, I invite you to come, because it's getting intense out there. It's a lot of people that are sensitive, and who have lots of compassion for other humans are getting overwhelmed. And this is a long-term experience. So I invite you to find ways to rebalance and reconnect with yourself when disruptions are happening in the world. And I'm here for you. So if you want some more information about that, those sessions are called Consciousness Revolution, where we will be going within and allowing our own transformation, and knowing that our own transformation and our own expansions of consciousness have a huge impact on the world around us. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.